Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, I'm gonna call this a therapy session video, but once again, it's not about me. I'm sensing a theme here when I'm talking about therapy these days. It's not about, oh my god, it's a crisis, even though I have a lot of things I could be considering in that way. For me, it's more so sounding off about stuff that I just want to talk about, that I don't want to bring too much attention to. That's just kind of how I feel, so that's where I'm at. So, like, I'm sensing the theme here, and thank you to all my basketball people, by the way. This is not a basketball conversation, obviously, so if you're not into whatever my brain's gonna say next, I don't blame you. I just kind of put everything together because that's just how I am. But maybe one day if I grow, I won't do that, but for now I'm just leaving everything on one channel. So yeah, thanks for sticking around if you did. But I'm looking at something from a perspective that is an outside perspective. So just bear with that as my disclaimer. I sense a theme in the entertainment industry right now. I've been watching this. I paid attention to different artists that come into hip-hop particularly get arrested on RICO charges, things of that nature. And we know when the feds get you, they've got you. They've been building their case for a long time, and I know their methods are so very thorough, so I don't assume to understand nor do away with the amount of work it takes. Hard, long hours, intellect bending work for professionals that are far smarter than myself. But it just seems very, very set up to me that a lot of these artists come into these situations where they become stars. They get into the quote-unquote machine, get a bunch of money made for the machines, go on tour, do all this. And then, like, several years into that process, when they've wrung out these guys and made a lot of money off of them, now all of a sudden some RICO charges come up. Now they can go toss them all in jail, take all that money back, goes to the lawyers now, which then goes wherever it goes from there, taxes of course, and the fame that they've used, you know, to prop these kids up, they can now put as an example to tear them down and ultimately lock them away. I think they've had this information on Young Thug the entire time. Young Thug's been a rapper that I've been familiar with since probably 2014. I think they've had this information and all this junk. They've been watching this dude probably since then. And it's just kind of wild to me how it's just, you know, now he and all his associates, they got all this and they're just about to take them all down. You look at the information that they got. I just read up on the paperwork, and it's looking horrible for all of those dudes. And it's like, I'm not saying that they're guilty, innocent. I don't know, man. But what I was reading, I'll tell you what I was reading when they was reading the crimes that they're accused of. All I could say is, wow, all they was doing was really mimicking what everything is about, really just doing it outside of what is considered legal. But like, the very country itself was just a bunch of people who took their guns, took their flag, and built their power through whatever means they could. I'm not saying it was the right way to go in either situation, but what I'm saying is, boy, does it feel hypocritical to read all of that stuff and then apply the very same thought to say, wow, this is exactly how this country was built. Some people took like I said, took their guns, they took their men, they were brave-hearted and broke some rules, and they broke some jaws, and you know, like, yeah, is it horrible when it's done? All the time. But I think we deliberately forget that that's exactly what this thing is built upon. We deliberately forget that, like, that's literally what we're all benefiting from. There's a bunch of people doing that, you know, getting caught, and then we take their plunder and build off of it. I mean, that's literally what these people keep on doing. And it's like, I don't know. I watched the 6ix9ine situation. I felt like that kid was propped up by the government. I always did feel that way. I felt that way before anything even happened. It just seemed too convenient that he was hopping out and all of a sudden he's running around with all these gangbangers and they're all just flocking to him. And I know damn well that he's too close, especially in New York where they have these RICO thing. It's like, come on, man. Now everybody's going around screaming they got this, they got that. They're going around doing real stuff on camera. I'm like, this is not hard to tell. This is all in our faces. All you have to know is that it's New York and how they play about gun laws. We had just seen the same thing with Bobby Shmurda. So the exact same thing. So we knew what 6ix9ine was about. I had already seen how they get down. And now here this kid come out, got all the gang members screaming out everything they got to say from coast to coast, going all over here, fighting at the airport. At the airport, that's a federal offense in and of itself. Nobody in their right mind is going to do that on camera. It just don't make no sense to me how they would put themselves in positions to be seen doing certain things. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense if the government's setting it up. If they setting it up, this kid disappears after the case of his situation and all that. They prop him up, build him up to be a big star, turns it to the quote-unquote snitch that did all of this, that, and the third, and then now he reemerges and now all of this is happening. That person's going to jail, this RICO charge is going to there, that person's got... It's just a lot of stuff that's happening as soon as this kid reemerges. He reemerges, he hugs up next to Whack 100 and 6ix9ine and academics, and all of a sudden chaos. One person going to jail after another. I'm just like, man, is all of this coincidence? I don't think I'm that stupid, man. I'm not. I'm really not. It just seems like there's a really strange correlation between what's going on in hip hop and the notion, I guess to say my very own notion, that there is a way to make an example of people after propping them up to be famous. You know what I mean? I look and I say, okay, this takes place in Georgia, New York. You know what I'm saying? I think about the political games that are being played, the red versus blue, and I'm not talking about Crips and Bloods. I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans. And I just think about, man, these different states. I think about Georgia's a red state. They want to make an example. They want a big response to some of the things that they've seen. It's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on, and I look at this as a way for them to do a lot of different things at once if they choose to. A grand sweep, you know, of hip hop. Try to change the entire image of what this thing is because it makes so much money. They want to kind of control it. I think it's a lot of different things going on in regards to the money that's being made behind the scenes. A lot of these artists starting to understand their independence, and they're finding fountains of money that these entities don't necessarily have control over, with them finding their own, finding their proper worth. And there's a lot going on, man. And I just look at it and I say, you know what? What's done in the dark will be seen in the light. The one thing that being an AMC ape has taught me is that there is a reaction for all of the corruption and weirdo conspiracy stuff that's actually taking place. The stuff that's actually happening that maybe we just theoretically think is possible. There is a natural reaction to that as those things occur. You know, the energy it puts out too will be reciprocated, is what I'm saying to you. All of us have to take back what we put out, even the ones who hide in the shadows. So essentially what I'm saying to you is there's going to be a movement against that, I think, man. You're going to see people start to turn their attention to the entities that are starting to build these cases against these people. We're going to start asking questions like, why them? Why now? And why aren't you focusing on such and such and such stuff, which we are also paying attention to, that we know you don't want us to pay attention to, such as the financial crisis in this country, the rate hikes, and the various corruption that's going on surrounding the stock market. That we know a lot of what you've done is a distraction from. See, people like myself aren't supposed to be in that space as well. I'm not supposed to know what's going on with Young Thug and know what's going on with AMC at the same time. We're not supposed to be in this. They do a great job of separating people, you know, and we do a good job of separating ourselves just the same. But nah, I'm aware. I'm very much aware of what it is they're actually trying to fund, which is a something that is completely and utterly out of control. So I think everything that is going on in this time, all of it is connected to that event, because I know how expensive that event actually is. I know how many things it actually connects to, as the rest of us who are involved in it know, and we understand the American government is very much part of it as well. Very much so. So at the end of the day, when that actually happens, when this event takes place, a lot of these different things that we think are theoretical, a lot of this stuff is going to be brought to the forefront, because the finances will be revealed. A lot of stuff won't be able to stay hidden because the books are going to be out and open. And so that's what I know is coming. So a lot of this stuff, I would just say, you know, in regards to this particular situation, you know, there's no saving anyone when the RICO case is on you. Don't get it twisted. If Young Thug is guilty of what it is they say he did, he's a bad guy, they're going to put him away. Nobody forced him to do anything or anything like that. All I'm saying is, when you look at the environment people are in, you look at the poverty they come from, you look at the circumstances they're involved in, you have to consider what it takes for them to survive in that situation, and then from there, what dreams come from the poverty that they're in, and what they're willing to do to get out of that situation. And if you can't simulate that desperation, you can't simulate those horrors, and what is the brave heart that's required to get out of it, then I don't think you're qualified to really judge it. I don't think that you're qualified to really understand it to begin with. So it would take something smarter, in my opinion, to properly judge these actions. I think we blanket these actions, and we allow our old ways of judging these actions to do it, because it's worked, you know. But it's worked for some, and in some cases, some things have slipped through the cracks. And I think where we get lost is not considering the fact that sometimes you have to understand people in order to properly delegate what should happen to them when they do things that aren't properly acceptable, I guess is what you can say. And the people who are judging these people, I think, are people who are in need of judgment themselves. It's essentially what I've been saying for the last 13 minutes. So I wish all who deserve well, most importantly the kids involved in these situations. These men have families. You know, they all have stories. But I think if I'm to look at it from a positive light, if you're in those gentlemen's shoes, those ones who were arrested and went through all that, I guess you would have wanted to live through the success that they did before going away, if they're going to go away forever, rather than somebody's catch you before you get a chance to get off the ground. I can't speak for everybody in that situation at all, but just looking at Young Thug's situation particularly, at least he got a chance to enjoy life as a star for a little while. But at the end of the day, when you make certain decisions, you know that there's going to be them consequences that come after it. And even if you have a sad story to tell that would make it so that you would be so sad enough to make bad decisions, you still gotta live with them consequences. And a lot of times the people that force us into feeling as hurt as we was, the people that did to us what happened to us, were people making them same sad decisions. They ain't care no more. You understand what I'm saying? It's that cycle. You got to stop it. You know what I mean? A lot of times you're surrounded by people who will egg you on. They'll tell you, yeah, keep it going, keep it going. This is what it takes to survive. We're going up against people who don't care either, so we gotta do this to live. And maybe that is the case, but you gotta know that environment that carries consequences, and you gotta turn it off. Now, a lot of times these guys learn how to turn it off. Still gotta pay them damn consequences. And I think that's what happened there with Young Thug. I think he changed a lot. I don't know if he changed in terms of how he operated. Judging by what they found, probably not. But I think at the end of the day, he did some good things too. We were able to see that. So there's balance to be found, I guess, with anybody. I think about Tukey and all the horrible things that happened, and ultimately how his life ended. But I also remember the books that he wrote. I also remember the impact that he made, and ultimately what he ended up standing for in the end. Did it negate all the bad? No. Did he have to pay? Yeah. Did he deserve to die? Probably. Did he do good things with his life? Yep. Do I think that counts? Oh yeah. And so there's still time left, you know. Maybe there's some good someone can do from the inside. I don't know. Thug is a huge star. Huge star. So it's a different situation, I guess you can say, you know what I mean? Because what he's been accused of is pretty bad stuff. So, you know, it's not looking good. It ain't just, oh, you're a part of the gang. That's it. Nah. I read up. It's looking bad for that particular man. So, you know, like I said, you just got to pay up. At the end of the day, I don't know who's good, who's bad. I look in my own heart. I see both good and bad. I look in my past. I've done some things I wish I didn't do. I've done some things I'm proud of. I don't know. If I can look at myself and say, okay, that's a bad person or a good person, I'm working on myself. I pray. That's all I can do. So when I assess other people, the older I get, the more I understand how many traps you can fall into, how difficult it can be to stay out of those traps, you know, how certain things can make you not care no more for a time, and those times can be times you wish you could undo after the fact, but you do stuff, man. You just do. Sometimes people just don't be smart enough to make good decisions to help themselves. I don't know. I've been that person many times in that way too. But when you get to a point where you've made it, and you've done it, you bought your mama the house, you know what I'm saying? You bought all that you're gonna do. Your kids, you got their life set, and then somebody come knocking on your door about some stuff that you did 10 years ago, and they come take all of that from you. That's cold, man. You feel me? That's cold. You have to avoid that too. You see what I'm saying? Part of providing for your kids is making sure that what is given to them can't be taken away. And that's the part I think we get lost in when we try to build our wealth from this position we're in, from the bottom. You know, you have to take those risks sometimes to get even close to a fraction of what it is that you're going up against. And that's not taking into account enough, you know. My people, and I'm not just speaking for black people, but I speak of all of us who are poor, but especially people of color. I have to say it. We are in a space where if we don't do certain things outside of the lines, it's set up for us to not ever get close enough to a position of actual power. So even when you get a bunch of money, you're still surrounded by those who don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. Even when you find yourself have made it, you're still confined by the eyes of those who want to set you up to break you down. You know, you speak your truth or what have you. You find your independence and suddenly you just up and are no longer. And these things happen, you know. Think about a kid like Young Thug. He thought he had made it. He thought he had it all. Maybe he couldn't let go of some bad habits. Maybe he had some times in his life where something told him, you know what, it's time to cut ties with this person, or it's time It's time to end that. And maybe he ignored those times, because everybody has those moments, even myself, where I said, you know what, I hear that voice in my head is telling me not to do that thing, but I think I'm gonna do it anyway. And then the consequences come, and you live with that. I think you probably find when most people were caught up, most of them probably hear something like that at some point. Most of them probably do, man. But it is what it is, man. I just look back and I think of all the situations I was able to avoid, and I realized that I had a lot of things working in my favor that allowed me to do that. A lot of my friends weren't in a position to have a loving household. A lot of the people that looked like me weren't in a position to be told that they mattered, that there was a life outside of what they could see in their heads or what they see around them, that they could dream or that they could achieve or that they could, keep something that they obtained. You understand what I'm saying? That it didn't have to be taken from you. That you didn't have to put yourself in a position to lose what it is that you work for any reason. Not everybody's born with that type of love in their life, Do we account for that when we punish people? Mental health concerns, what people are going through, strains in their life, the grandmama sick, whatever. Do we ever account for what causes these things? Or do we just, that's a bad guy, send him away? I think that's why we do get it wrong the times that we do get it wrong. It's because we vet through a lens that is imperfect, that has politics wrapped up in it in certain times, biases or isms wrapped up in it, political biases, things that don't look into the heart of the person or the circumstances of the person or considers what the person is guarding against or what it is they're suffering from. But we ignore all of that and we just say, hey, take the book that we used for the last situation and apply it to this one, and apply it to the next one, and apply it to the next one, and live with the results. I just want us to get smarter. Not only the people, but the government itself, the governing body. Just get smarter, with the energy that we put out, with the things that we do, knowing that it's going to come back to us on the highest level and the smallest, but also how we look at people and their perspectives. Get some people who understand them to help judge them. It's what I ask. I think that's a humane and responsible way to attract fairness. You can attract fairness when you start operating from that perspective, I believe. And I say attract fairness because I know this isn't a fair world, but you can create the environment for which fairness can be found when you start realizing that you're applying a certain bland, blanketed logic to very complicated and unknown variables in certain situations, unconsidered variables. I don't even know if those were words that should be put together, but they should be, and I know they made sense. Because there are certain aspects of these situations and these pockets of places that the people who govern them know nothing about. They watch over these places, they own these places, but they're not in these places. So they don't know what is required to survive in these places. And if they knew, they wouldn't look at it and judge the things that those people do the same way you would judge people who don't have those circumstances. You wouldn't. I tell you that from inside one of those environments. You would not. But that you do is harmful to these environments and to these people. and most importantly, to the overall perspective of the people on both sides. Because they have misconceptions about who one another is. And of course, no trust for you, government. So, it is what it is. Treat the people better, and maybe they'll actually have more a desire to just be better to one another. I don't know. Maybe that's super optimistic, but I think if people are not coming from a position of desperation and poverty and ignorance as it pertains to their very own self-worth, if you don't have all of that working against people, and then you don't, of course, like put a liquor store on every corner and that kind of thing. If you don't do that, saturate them with substance and drugs, and leave them uncared for in their mental illness and what have you, if you don't do all of those things, I'm willing to bet that you will find a gold mine in those places. Lucrative people, concepts, art, you name it. It's all in these places that you ignore. It's what Tupac was telling you 30 years ago. It's the same thing I'm saying in this camera. The best stuff, including the cures to your sicknesses, the answers to some of your unanswered questions, and these different things that y'all trying to figure out, your scientists, they're in these places that you don't give a damn about, man. That's where your geniuses are. They're in these streets shooting each other's brains out. These kids are smarter than you. And you would never know it because you're too afraid to get close to them. But the fact that they're surviving in these environments proves to me that they're smart enough to do more than that. But I don't know. You got to look at it a certain way, I guess. I don't know. It is what it is, man. When I look at these dudes like Young Thug, and I see him doing what it is that they say that he did, or I look at anybody in these situations that do these things, quote unquote, I look and I say, what are they looking at? When they look out into the world from within their eyes, what do they see? What's coming at them? And I look around in my eyes and I realize it's not what's coming at me. So how in the hell can I possibly judge them? I'll leave you with that. My name is BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.